Welcome back guys, Mel here from Mel's Motors. I've got a Honda CBR900, this is the 929 version, 2001. They were only made for a couple of years. It's in for a full service valve clearance check. It's not the sort of thing people want to see, it's a service. But we're going to be replacing this rear swing alarm as well. So customer's got another one and I think he dropped it and scratched it, so he wants a replacement one put on there. He's also got a power commander which was given under the seat there. He wants me to plug that in, so we'll just go through the bike and see where we get to. If you have a look under the tank here, got this hose. Now normally if you undo these from the tank, so just there, the fuel will not stop leaking. It will just constantly be out until it's empty. So we use a hose clamp. We clamp these hoses up and then we undo it from the fuel rail. Flow and return here, so this is the high pressure feed and there's a return off the fuel rail. You have to clamp both of these off, otherwise you'll end up emptying the tank out. That chirping noise you can hear is the alarm has gone into service mode, so it'll chirp every couple of minutes, which is very annoying, but it's better than it going off. So, cam covers off because we're going to do valve clearance check. I had to take the throttle blade off because I wouldn't have got the cam cover off, and you have to remove these. These screws were so tight, but they managed to, well, one of them rounded, but I managed to get a snap-on socket on there which took it off. So I'm going to take the spark plugs out, which will make it easier for me to turn the engine over, and I'm going to take the side fairing off because there's a cap down there. You just see it. I need to take that cap off, this there, so I can stick a socket in there and turn the engine over. So I've just got this cap off, gain access to the crankshaft bolt there. If you have a look inside, we've got some markings, some at the top, there's a little pin at the bottom as well, a little line. Now if you have a look up here, we have a notch. This notch lines up with this, but also if we look inside, you can also see there's a line here, like a V, and this line lines up with the bottom here. Now this crank can, well, the cams can be 180 degrees out to this, so the crankshaft turns twice for once of the camshafts. So once you've set this up, you need to have a look at the camshaft up here, and you'll also see there's a groove right in there, so let's zoom into that. Now, if you get your head right down, you see it lines up with the edge of the cylinder head. If you bring your head up, it doesn't have any reference marks, but if you come right down, you can see it lines up exactly to the edge of the cylinder head. Now we can't see the back cam here because obviously there's a frame in the way, and I'm going to show you where that mark is. Okay, as you can see, well, as you can't see, there's not a lot we can see there, so we can't see the markings from there. But if I go on the other side, I'm sorry about the chirping, it's this service mode on the alarm. Okay, so we have a dot here that also lines up with this part of the cylinder head. So we have a reference point on the back of this cam and one on the front of the other one. I can't get my camera low enough for you to be able to see that that lines up, but if you just see it in real time, that does line up exactly with that cylinder head. So you need to time it up so you can get the chain off. So the tension is down here. Sorry, the tension is down here. So we've timed up, so now we can safely take this off, but I just need to confirm all these valve clearances with a tighter feeler gauge. So I've checked all the valve clearances. All of the inlets are too tight. 3 of the exhaust ones are too tight. Now with motorcycles compared to cars, motorcycle valves tend to get tighter and car ones tend to get larger. Reason being is, as you know, motorcycles rev way higher than cars. As these valves are beaten into the head over time, they get higher and higher into the cylinder head as they wear in, therefore the gaps get tighter. On a car, most of the time they're driving anything between 2 and 4,000 RPM, where these motorcycles are 10,000 RPM on top of that. Hence why the cars tend to get larger, because you get wear on them, as opposed to the motorcycles where the valves beat themselves in and become higher and higher and they get closer to the back end of the camshaft. So we're going to time this up, get the timing chain off, get the cams out, but before we do that, I'm going to see what the smallest feeler gauge fits in here, so we have a gauge of what size we're looking for to make up the difference to re-shim these. Okay, inlet camshaft's out. I've left the exhaust one in there. After rechecking it, I used two different feeler gauges, and they're all within spec on the exhaust side, but the inlet's definitely all out. So I've taken the figures down that I already have, and I can do some maths, get the shims to be smaller so the gap becomes bigger. So now I'm going to take these out individually, see what the thickness of the shims are in there. A lot of the times these shims will have numbers on there, which identify the size they already are, save you having to measure them. But as best practice, it's a good idea to measure them in case there's any wear on them. It's very unlikely, but it's good to double check. Okay, I've got all my figures. I did have a couple of tight ones on the exhaust one, but when I rechecked them, they came up as okay, within tolerance. I've got the figures here for the ones that we measured. So I know what the gap was. I just need to minus that figure that I need to make the difference off these shims. So I need to make these shims smaller to make the gap bigger. So I've got my micrometer, just going to zero it, make sure it's set to 0. If you don't have a micrometer, you can use a vernier. Yeah, they're both telling me the same thing, 1.74. So you can use one of these, they're a lot cheaper than one of these. Okay, so I've measured all the original shims, I've made a note, I know what the gaps were originally, so I've done the maths, I've gone through my combination of shims, and I've put in order all the shim replacements that I need to get these somewhere right. And there is a tolerance that can be, it can be 0.003 plus or minus. Okay, so these old shims, they're not useless. I always put them back in the boxes because there's nothing wrong with them. They're not worn, they're just different sizes. So they'll go back in there, my shim kit, and then we'll put the new ones in and put it back in the bike. When putting these shims back in, you notice they were stuck in here. Never stick them in there and put them back on. So these will individually go on top of the back of the valves, and then you put the buckets on top of them. Otherwise you'll end up dropping them in the engine. Okay, shims are going in. Okay, camshaft's in. Getting that chain on was a bit of a pig. It's quite tight in that corner. I've done all the valve clearance checks now. They're all spot on. Got the timing back on the mark down there. I've checked it in the corner, that's right, and the dots lined up, which is perfect. I've only put one bolt in, the tensioner there, and I need to put the end cap on as well. Brilliant, all done. So now I've got to stick the centre bolts in, torque them up. These usually have copper washers on there. I say usually because two were missing out of this one, so someone's had this apart before. So I'm going to replace these copper washers. The reason the copper washers are there because when the cam cover goes on, you've got a hole here for the spark plugs, and because there's oil galleries inside this cap, if oil comes up through these bolts, they'll end up filling the spark plug hole. So the copper washers are there as a sealing washer. Okay, so it's going back together. Custom supply power commander, so literally plug and play, 2 plugs and an earth. Okay, we'll top this back together. I just need to start it, but there's no oil in it. I did say this was a service as well. I've skipped the entire service side, but I'm just going to put some oil in it. As you can see, this is at an angle, so if I put a funnel in there, by the time you fill it up, it just drips out. Bikes are a pain in the arse to fill. I don't know why they didn't just do that upright. Here's a fuel additive can. It's not for this bike, but it's just a can that I kept because there's a really good spout on it. We have a kitchen upstairs. When we use the tin opener, just cut the back out. I can fill it without hassle. So it's utilising what you've got. guys, I hope you enjoyed this video of this CBR900. It was in for a service, valve clearance check and adjust. As always, if you enjoyed these videos, please hit the like button, subscribe button, bell notifications to be notified next time I upload a video.